Hey, this is Passy from Passy's World of ICT, the guy with the white hat. And today we've got another Photoshop tutorial, and we're going to be making these stenciled image banners where you kind of have images set up and then you stencil out letters over the top to make yourself a banner heading. So this is going to be a lot of fun, and let's get into it. So we're making these two ones. This one first we just made a background and it doesn't have the outline around it, and it's very easy to get an outline around it, and it just kind of looked better with a grey background when we've done that. And you need background images that have lots of little pictures. That way the people's faces and things, you'll get some action inside your letters. So this is just a promotional thing for the Tokyo Olympics, because they're coming up in 2021, fingers crossed with Wuhan flu permitting. And that'll all be happening. So this is the clipping mask in Photoshop is what does the magical part of this. But remember, we're a slow talker, so it's best that you increase the play speed of the video to 1.5 or even 1.75 speed, and then you'll find it flows a lot better. The video will have an index timeline in the video description, but you may not need to use it for this lesson unless you want to skip ahead to where we demonstrate it in Photoshop. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the kind of lesson first on how to make it, okay, and just show you all the steps. Then we're actually going to do the steps in Photoshop. So the thing is, you might just want to go to watch us do it in Photoshop and skip all of this. This presentation, these step-by-step instructions, they'll be part of the downloads, and you can find the link in the video description. So that'd be great. Get the hard copy PDF to use while you're making this. A lot of our students have actually just used the PDF and not watched the video much at all, and that's okay too. It's up to you, your preferred way of learning. So we go File, New in Photoshop, and what we do is any of these custom ones will do, because we're going to change it to 2100 by 532 for width and height, and it's important that you use those values, okay? So they're the values you've got to use for this tutorial to work. Just 72 pixels per inch, RGB color. Yeah, make sure that's on color because that's what we need, not black and white grayscale color, but it should be on RGB color. Now the background, you can use this drop down arrow here, and we're just going to pick white, and then you click the create button. And what it's done is it's just made this white background here where we can make a banner on top of. Now we don't want the white background, so a clever way to get rid of that is you can just draw a rectangle over the top. So in Photoshop, if you use this little arrow up here, then you'll see the tools side by side, and in 2021 Photoshop, it's down here underneath the T for text tool that we're going to use later on. There's this shapes tool, and if you push down on it, you can see all the different shapes because it may be showing one of these other ones, but we just want rectangle tool, so you click on rectangle tool. And what happens then is the properties of the rectangle tool, because it's active and you've clicked on it, they'll show across the top, and you can just click on this fill sort of color panel here, this color square, and pick like we picked that light blue color. And then for the stroke, we don't want anything around the outside. We don't want a border. We do not want a border around our rectangle. So for stroke, the border around the outside, you just go to this symbol here, which is the no color symbol, and you click that so that we won't have a border. It's going to be all invisible. Now what will happen after you've done that, and to get rid of this, just click anywhere in this gray area and that'll close up. Now what will happen is a plus sign sort of cursor will appear instead of this arrow, and you can kind of push down your mouse and just drag out a rectangle that goes all over the top of that white bit. Now it can spill over the top because when Photoshop saves it, it'll crop it out anyway to the size we've got this background canvas. The main thing is that it doesn't sort of drop into the inside, because then you'll have little white bits around the edge that don't look good. So it's all right to spill over the outside and go a little bit too big, but don't go a little bit too small. All right, now what happened with ours was that suddenly everything was in black and white, like our color pickers down here in the tools were black and white. And we still don't know what happened to this day, but what you do is you just click on image and mode, and we found ours was on grayscale, black and white. Now I don't know how that happened. We must have accidentally just pressed something. So anyway, we don't want grayscale, that's no good. We want color. So just have RGB color, just put it on this, make sure this one's ticked, and 8 bits per channel is certainly enough for what we're doing. So like I said, I don't know how it changed the grayscale, but I found I had to change it back to RGB color. All right, now what will happen is when you draw that rectangle with that plus symbol, Photoshop might pop up this thing that, oh, I'm going to draw a rectangle, a square for you that's 100 by 100. Well, that's not what you want, so you just click cancel. I don't know why Photoshop does this, it's not helpful at all, but just click cancel to get rid of it, and then your rectangle should stay the same size. And remember, if your rectangle is messed up while you're doing it, you can just do hold down the CTRL key down the left-hand corner of your keyboard, and then just press the Z key, and that'll take you backwards a step. That'll undo things, and you can try draw your rectangle again. But what should happen is after you've drawn it, probably the properties panel will pop up. So if you want to change its color with the properties panel, you can just click on this color patch here and pick whatever color you want. Okay, so anyway, ours is blue, so that's all fine. So you use this double arrow symbol up here just to close that panel. It'll shrink in and get out of the way. All right, now anytime you want to come back and change the background color, I think on one of our projects right at the end we wanted to change it to red, you can always just go window up the top of Photoshop and go properties, and while you clicked on the rectangle, and these should come back and you can change them. Okay, so that's that done. And so then we'll have this nice blue background, and you can see it's made a layer here that says rectangle 1, and we can see it's a blue color. All right, so that's all set up. Now getting the background images, we need lots of photos of small images in a collage. So use Google Images to get ones. We can't give them to you because it'd be a copyright violation, but we can use these because it's for education purposes, so it's not breach of copyright. But we found if you just type in Olympic Games sports photos to start off with, you can find different things, and you click on the image and you get that black box. And then what you can do is you can right click and put it in a new tab. We'll show you that in a minute. So we found these ones. This one here was good, even though that's for the Rio Olympics. We'll use it for the Japanese one. That's got a lot of pictures of people doing Olympic sports. This one was okay. This one here wasn't bad as well, and it kind of repeated, but that's okay. We just want background images that are going to go behind our cutout letters later on. So to get the full-size image saved, what you do is you click on the thumbnail in Google and this opens up. Then right-click on this and choose Open the Image in a new tab. It'll open up in a new tab in your browser. Then you can snip it or save it. So we'll jump across and show you that in the browser, how you get these images. All right, so here we are in Google. We've typed in Olympic Games sports photos, right? So we press enter, and then we need to go to images up the top here and get into the images. And it's sort of got all these ones, and I hope it's finding the ones we found last time. Something like that. The pictures are a little bit too big. And of course, wouldn't you know it, now it's not finding all the ones it found the other day. Oh, come on. Let's have a look. All right, there's that one which we got. All right, so there's one we're interested in. Lots of little pictures with a white border around them or a grey border. So we click on that. Then it comes up in this black box. And what you do then is that you right click on that. All right, and then you say open the image in a new tab. And what will happen is a new tab will open up just here, up the very top here. See this new tab, and you click on that, and then you've got this picture here in the tab. Now on this one, if you right click and do save image as, it's a web BP and it's not going to work, okay? So if that happens, if it won't save it as a JPEG or a PNG, which happens on, not very often, but on a few images, well then in Windows, go Start, and get your snipping tool going, right, which is this guy here. And what we do is we just do a new snip, okay, and we can just go along here. Now we want to sort of have a little bit of white border as well, but we'll just kind of go along there like that, and then we can just snip it off the screen. So it's here inside our snipping tool now, and we can go File, Save As, and we'll save that image into, let's see. Okay, we've got one called Stencilled Backgrounds. We've already actually got that one there, but let's just call it Olympics Collage number 5. All right, now, of course, you don't have to use these ones. You can find your own ones. Now, hopefully Google's going to help us out here, because what usually happens, if we can just close that new tab now and go back to other tab, it usually has similar ones here, and that's how we found our other ones like this one, Find the Scrambled Summer Olympics. All right, so that's a pretty good picture. That's one of the ones we use. So if you just right click, open the image in a new tab. All right, your new tab, you have to go up to the top of your screen to get into that new tab. And there it is. And this one, you can actually right click and go Save Image As, and it will save as a PNG file. So we did manage to save that. All right, so we won't repeat getting all the ones we were going to get, but that's the thing. And then this one here, we'll show you at the end. This was good for an alternative one we made. But anyway, just open the image in a new tab, go to the tab, and that one should come out bigger. That isn't the big version of it, but there should be a bigger version of that around somewhere. This one's a little small, but anyway, find ones like this that have lots of small images. Now it says that 768 by 588, and that's what I got last time. Oh, that's better, where it's nice and big, okay? And you can just save that one there. Anyway, enough of that. Let's get back to the instructions. All right, so we've done that. So snip out and edit, copy, paste. So what you do now is, if you get those pictures up just in normal Windows Explorer or in Photoshop, you can just snip them out like this, and then you can edit, paste them into Photoshop. And we'll show you that in, and they automatically come out in a new layer. So you don't have to do File and Place Embed. You can just edit, copy, edit, paste between the snipping tool and Photoshop. We'll show you that later in the live demo, but that's how you do that. And the image will come in on its own layer, but it's way too big. So you have to fix that up later on. So you double click, first we're going to just rename the layer though, all right? So in here, you double click in here because it'll have some gobbledygook name, and you double click in there, and then you can type in that box there, and we just put Pic 1 in there, all right? So we just renamed it first, and then we do the resizing. So to do the resizing, if you go to Edit Free Transform, okay, then you'll get the sizing options, and you can shrink it down. You want to shrink it down so it goes into your blue box here, and it just sort of ends up in the corner as our first image, right? Okay, so that's our first one in. And what we're going to do now is, we repeat that 3 more times. So we snip and copy paste, and we've got all our background images covering up the blue rectangle, right? So what we can do now is we can get rid of the white background that we had originally. So what we mean here is, so we've got that blue rectangle, and we've done from the snipping tool, edit, copy, edit, paste, and edit free transform to resize. And you can see we've got that image and this big one all next to each other, and that's filling up our whole banner area. So that's going to be great when we put the letters across the top. So we've got Pic 3, Pic 2, and Pic 1. We've got our blue rectangle behind everything. We don't need that white background. So you can click on that to make that the active layer. Then you go right down the very bottom right-hand corner, and there's a trash can. You click on that, and it says delete the layer background, and just say yes, and that'll get rid of the background layer. All right, at this stage, you should save a PSD file version of the project. So just go like File, Save As, and make sure it's saved as a Photoshop file, because that way we could always come back to this if we just needed the background images and we wanted to try doing the lettering again. All right, so just save this as like V1 or version 1, but make sure it's a PSD Photoshop file. All right, those background images, we need to merge them all into one layer. We can't have them as 3 layers and do our kind of, what do we call it? Do our clipping or do our stenciling, all right? So to get all 3 selected at once, what you have to do is you hold down the Shift key on your keyboard, which is sort of down towards the left-hand corner. Keep your finger down on that and just go click, 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 till you've got all 3 of them gray here, so they're highlighted. Don't click the rectangle, you're not to select that, just the 3 images. And then once you've got them all selected, what you can do is you can go onto layer here, and you go down to merge layers, all right? And you click on merge layers, and that's gonna squash them all down into one layer. Or while they're selected, you can also right click, and from the right click options, do merge layers, okay? So we wanna merge them all down into one layer. And now we're ready to add the text over the top. So see how this is now called Pic 3, but that's all the pictures now in one layer. So that's all happening there. And what we're going to do is we're going to put the writing over the top now. So you need to go on the T for text tool and activate that. Now the font we need to use, it'll give big thick letters which will cut out a stencil really well. If you just use the down arrow here, this is a fairly standard one, so hopefully everyone's computers should have it. Franklin Gothic Heavy, and we just want it regular. Now we're going to have to make it really big for it to sort of fill up that whole banner there. So we're actually going to have to type in, because when you use the drop down, it only goes up to about 92 point or 90 point or something. So you can actually click in that box and type 650. So it's 650 PT, and click on this color box and get a white color for it. Okay. So that's the steps to set up to do the writing before we even start typing the text in. Now to start typing text, once that's set up, you actually just click in the end here and you'll get this big flashing cursor and you can put your writing in, as we'll show you in the demo. All right, now if you need to, before typing it, we also need to set up some other things as well, actually. So we've done the basics to make it 650 in Franklin Bold, but you need to now go on Window and Character, which will open up this other menu, the Character panel, where we can say what the actual letters are going to be like in this word before we type it in. And what we're setting here is that we're setting this T1 from 100% up to 110% to stretch the letters up to be a little bit taller. We're changing how far the letters are apart to -100, which is going to move all the letters closer together to fit in our banner. And we're using this other one for spreading the letters. We're taking that down to 95%. Okay, so we're setting those three things there. So you need to set them up, leave everything else as it is on this screen. Then when you finish doing that, there's no OK button or anything. You have to click this double arrows to close that pop-up menu off. Finally, we're ready to start typing the text. Now, if you click in the corner here and type, it should come out and fit nicely across your banner. But what happened with ours was, we used those settings because we'd played around with a previous project and they worked really well. But suddenly they didn't work, and Tokyo was going off the edge of the pictures. So we actually just had to do window up the top here and then go on to character to get this menu, and we had to take the VA back to 75. All right, so if your letters are too tall, for example, they're going out of the top of the thing, you'd need to drop down this one that says how tall they are, but ours were going off to the right out of the image, so we had to drop down the VA value. So you may have to make adjustments on yours. Photoshop doesn't seem to be consistent. And of course, while you're doing this, make sure you clicked on the layer that it's made for the text. It's no use being on Pic 3 and trying to do this. You'll find I've done this. You accidentally on the wrong layer and you're changing all these things and then clicking off or pressing enter and your text isn't changing at all. You're going nuts. It's because you're not clicked on the text layer. So make sure you clicked on the text layer when you do it. And then we've got our words across the top. So we're looking like we're getting near the end of this, but we need to move the images layer, place it above the Tokyo. So actually, before we can do the cutting out, we actually have to make everything opposite way around. So at the moment, the writing is on top in white, that big Tokyo, but we have to click on Pic 3, the background image, push down our mouse and hold it, and then move it up here. And you need to move it up so that it goes to the top position, all right? You'll see this when we do the demo. So it's on top and the letters are underneath. So all you'll see is the image now, and you won't be able to see the letters at the moment. And the image, right, has gone on top like this. So it's up the top. So suddenly you're going, oh, where are my letters gone? Well, don't worry about that. They're all going to come back when we do the magic step of creating a clipping mask, all right? So make sure you clicked in Pic 3. A common thing is people think, oh, I want the letters to sort of punch through now. I'll click on Tokyo because that's where the letters are, but it's actually the opposite way around. We click on the image, and then when we make the clipping mask, the next layer under it, which is the letters, whatever's under it will kind of punch up and cut out holes in that layer. And that's what we're doing next. So to do the clipping mask, make sure you clicked on the image, Pic 3, this one or whatever you've called it where the background image is. Make sure that's been moved just above Tokyo. The letters need to be underneath it. And then you just go to layers and create clipping mask. You can also right click on this image and pick create clipping mask. Either way, you just do that steps to make the clipping mask, and then suddenly we have it. There's our blue rectangles come back, and our image now, we're only seeing the bits where the letters have come up and punched through the image like that. Okay, so that's all good. And again, we had to do a bit of fiddling around. We had to do window character and drop that VA from 75 actually down to 60. And then they fit it in really well, okay? So you can get on the letters and you can get on the move tool, the home tool up the top left-hand corner and move them, but they move too much. So it's best to just get on the letters layer and actually use the arrow keys on your keyboard to move the letters. And also you can go window character and get back in here, and we had to change VA. So you might have to change yours a little, but the idea is we've got nice even spaces between the letters and they fit in the banner area we've made. Now the letter T doesn't look great because this dividing line here isn't in the middle. It'd look better if we could move that across and put it in the middle. So we can move the background image around and change it a bit, and that's what we'll do next. So we're just going to adjust the background image. So now we click up on the Pic 3 background image layer. You go to your top left-hand corner move tool, and what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to push down your mouse on here and move it. And we just moved it back, so that was down the middle of the T, and now it's looking, these ones will all move as well. But I think the most important thing on this was to have that centered on the T, and everything else just has to end up where it ends up, and that's the way it is. All right, so we've got all that. And now we'll show you how to make the second version of it where we actually have a border around the letters. So the letters are kind of like someone went round with a texter or a pen and did an outline on all of the letters. And that's a very easy step to do, right? So if you want the letters with an outline, you want a different design, what you have to do is make sure you clicked on Tokyo on the letters, you go down to the FX, and when you click that, there's all these different layer effects we can do. And the one we want to use is stroke. Stroke means put an outline or put a border around something, okay? So you click on stroke. That's the effect you want to use. All right, when you do that, what happens is the layer style stroke opens up, and it's already added a stroke. Now we found on ours that 21 for the thickness of this stroke on the inside and outside, and using a kind of a red color, that worked best for us. So we just picked that. Opacity, we don't want it see-through at all, so we just left it 100%. Blend mode is just normal. And then you click OK when you're finished, and then we also wanted, the pictures looked a bit dull as well, so we clicked on the pictures layer and we just did image adjustments, and you can do your brightness, contrast, and maybe pump a bit more contrast into them. We did image adjustments, hue, saturation, and we just saturated up the colors a bit to make it more bright, more powerful on all of the colors. And I think we put the lightness up a little bit as well, maybe about 20%, and then we're happy with it. So you can change your background image as well to make it look better. And if you want to change the background rectangle color, you can do that, because we thought the blue color didn't look as good, so maybe we'll change this rectangle. So you need to click on the rectangle, and then you go window and properties, and what that'll do is that will bring up the rectangle's properties. And this color panel here was on blue, but we clicked on it and we picked this light gray color. All right, and then there is no OK button on this. You just click those double arrows to get out of it. And that was our finished image that we're happy with. That's for Tokyo Olympics. We've got people doing Olympic sports. We've kind of got the white and red color of the Japanese flag, but we've kind of toned it down into maroon and light gray. Because if you go bright red and white, it's sort of too intense, and I don't know, it didn't work as well, but we're really happy with that. And that's our finished Olympics banner. So we could put that up the top of a page, or use that in a poster or some other thing we're making, okay? And that's really sweet, because you could actually remove that gray rectangle and make it a clear background, and then you could put these letters onto anything you like. So that's it. So let's get started. Take a break now if you want. We're going to take a quick little break, and then we're going to actually get started and just go through those steps live in Photoshop. So this will be the Photoshop live demo. All right, so here we are in Photoshop, and it's taken us 20 minutes just to show you how to do it. Let's hope the live demo is quicker. So we go File, New, and what we want is any of the custom ones here, but remember we're changing this, and the magic numbers we're using are 2100 and 532, okay, because we found out they worked all right. So 2100 and 542, we're just leaving that as 72. We're on RGB color. Now, for the color, I think you can do custom and pick a color, but we're going to use that blue rectangle instead. So we're going to go white, that we just want the white background, and all that stays the same. But the main thing is 2100, 532 and a white background, and we just go create. And Photoshop does its little thinking, and there we go. Now remember, we didn't like that, so we decided that next thing we would do would be to use the rectangle tool. So we go here to the rectangle tool and make sure on that. Up the top here, it's got the properties. Now the fill color we wanted to use was sort of a light blue, but you could go to this color picker, all right, in Photoshop and pick kind of a blue color. Maybe not too intense. We'll go for that one and say okay. So that's the filling in color. Now we don't want to border around the outside, so we need to use this one. All right, so on stroke, when we click on that, use this one for no border. That's really good. And see how we've got that hanging around, and there's our plus sign to draw. Just go up here and click, and that'll get rid of that thing. So whenever those things are hanging around, just go up here and click, unless you've got a double arrow thing that you can close them. So what we do is we carefully get with this plus sign, hopefully that's coming out in the video, on this corner. Now it doesn't have to be exact, we can go a little bit over the edges like this, it won't matter. The main thing is don't go inside the edges, all right? And that's made our blue rectangle. It does bring up the properties, so you could change that color to something else if you wanted to. I'm not sure why mine has gone into this mode, but anyway, the double arrows up here and we close those things. So let's just close that off. So we've got our blue rectangle and we're happy with that. Now remember, if everything had gone gray on yours for some reason, you just go to image mode and make sure you're on RGB color. So image mode, RGB color. But because we asked for that and we set things up, we should be right. Now we're still actually in the rectangle tool. So to get off that, just click in your move tool up here. And that's okay. So we've got all that. Now our background images, we've already got some, and we'll show you how to snip them out now and do the edit paste. All right, so we go into the folder where our background images have been saved, and we get our first one, which I think is this one. We just double click on it and bring it up in just the normal Windows file viewer. Then we get on our snipping tool, and what we can do is we can go new, and we can snip this guy out. Okay, like that. And then we can just go edit copy. Now, rather than having to save it and then do place embedded, you can just go edit copy on your snipping tool, go back to Photoshop and go edit and paste. All right, now it brings it in, but if we move that round, see how it's too big? But that's okay. And even if you left it hanging out of the squares like that, that would be okay too, because Photoshop always just takes your final image back to the size of the background canvas. But what we want to do is we want to shrink that down and make it small. So notice it's brought it in on its own new layer called layer 1. Now we just want to double click in that, and we're going to rename that to PIC1, pick 1. Sorry about the dog barking, I don't know what he's going nuts about. And while we're on pick 1, we need to use edit, free transform, down here, and that will give us these things, and then we can shrink it and we can move it by pressing down the mouse in the middle of it. And have we got, yes, we've got all of our images. Okay, so that's our first one in position like that, and it's not quite fitting up the top. I might just use the arrow keys and move it a couple of steps while I'm clicked on it. All right, so that's good, and that's pick 1. Now for pick 2, if we go back to our images, I think for pick 2 we put this one in the middle. All right, so we just open it up, we get our snipping tool, so it's opened up just in the normal windows. Now we're going to go just on the outside edge here, just to have some border all the way around it, because we're going to sort of have these white borders on our images, so we have to go a little bit bigger than it, like that. Then we can just go edit copy while we're in the snipping tool, then just go to Photoshop and go edit and paste. How easy is that? And then we can see that's if we move that around, it's too big. So we just go edit onto our free transform, and we can grab a corner and push down our mouse. So you go to these buttons here and you push them down, and then you can move it, and we'll kind of move it along like that. Now let's do a view fit on screen so we can see things a bit better. Okay, that should probably use the left-hand arrow key on the computer because we don't want that border too thick. And if you have them like that, it'll be too thick. So we want a thin border there. So we do that. And this one here is called layer 1. So double click in that over in the layers panel, double click in it, and that's going to be called pic 2. All right, now we can do our third and final pic. So back to our normal Windows Explorer again. We should close down those other ones we've got going. And this big wide one was our other one. All right, so that guy there. So get on our snipping tool, do new, and this one we can't get white at the top, but we'll go around and try and get, I've sort of got a gray mark at the bottom, so we might just go like that. And then in our snipping tool, we go edit copy, jump back over to Photoshop, and in Photoshop, we go edit and paste. Okay, then we need to do our edit free transform and shrink that down. All right, now when you move that, it goes off the edge. Now that's okay, and that's going to be handy later on because it's going to enable us to be able to move the background image behind the letters. And what we'll be able to do is we can fine tune it a bit, okay? So if it isn't going too well with the letters, what we can do is we'll be able to fine tune it a bit. All right, so we've got that one there. And if we click back on our move tool, that's kind of all of our background images in there, all right? So that's going to be the background for our banner. So that's done. So remember, I said at this stage, do a file save as, and just save this. So I'm just going to call it video in prog 1. Because yeah, if something messes up, you don't have to do that fiddling around making the background images again. So we could always just close everything and reopen this version we've saved in prog v1. All right, so that's really good. So let's see where we're up to here. Now, what we need to do next is we've got to merge all these layers together. Oh yes, we'll click in this one here. If we go to the layers panel, double click in that one because that needs to be pic 3. Now before we put the writing on the top, if we don't merge them together, when we do the clipping mask to punch through the stencil later on, it'll only do it on this image and it won't do it on all of them. So you get on your first one and click it to have it selected, then hold down the shift key down the left-hand corner of your computer. Keep your finger on the shift key and just click these other ones here. Don't click the rectangle or background, but just these three guys. And what we can do then is you can go layer, and right down the bottom here, you find merge layers. Okay, so just click layer tab up the top and picked merge layers. And what that does is it condenses them all into one row, one image, which we'll just leave it as pic 3. You could double click in there and rename it, but we'll just leave it as pic 3. Now we don't need this background anymore, so we're just going to click on that background and we're going to hit this trash can basket down the bottom right hand corner, and it'll say delete the background. Do you want to do that? And we'll just say yes, all right? And you can see that's gone away. All right, so now we're cleaned up and we're ready to do our letters. So just be clicked on pic 3, and we need to get on the lettering tool. All right, and then remember, we're going for this Franklin Gothic Heavy, which should be one of the standard fonts, hopefully, that you'll be able to find. All right, because that's a nice big wide fat one, and we found that works well. We just want that as regular. Now the size 108 point. What we need for this particular Olympics banner, remember, was 650 points. So we're gonna have to click in there and change that to 650. We want it really nice and big, and then there's a space and it'll have the PT. Now we don't want it pink for the background, so we click in that and we want to get a white one and say okay. So we've got all that set up. Franklin Gothic Heavy, 650 point and white. So that's ready to go. But remember, we're also going to now do window and character. So window and then click on character, which brings up this character panel here. And we were going to do certain panel settings in the character panel. And what we were going to have is the VA. If you click the down arrow, we need that on -100. This one here, if we type in, it's not going to be 85%, but if you wanted to change it, he says, okay, you could do that by clicking into another box. So like we'll have it at 95 and then we'll just click in another box. This one needs to be 110, so we'll leave that. We're happy with the color being white. We're happy with the size being 650. They are all set up, but remember later on we'll find we have to adjust it. We'll leave it at 100 there to start off with. So now we're ready to do the letters. So you click on the T tool and we just click here, all right, at the end, and it's given us this lorem ipsum junk. Okay, that's Adobe's default. Now you've got to backspace that to get rid of it. Not sure why it's done that, because it didn't do it in the practice one. Okay, I think we've got rid of it all. So we'll go T-O-K-Y, we want it in capitals, T-O-K-Y-O. Bit hard to see what you're doing when it's like that. But we can get back onto our move tool at the top and move this around. Now that's all stuck really close together, like none of that window character stuff's taken effect. So make sure you clicked in the layer that says Tokyo, so we're on that writing, and we'll have to go back to our window character and see what's going on. Now, we are on a different computer now to what we made our demonstration one on. So certainly they're tall enough with the 110 here, but the VA just isn't working. So let's try -50 and see what happens. It's stretching out a bit. All right, so this seems to vary between computers. -25. All right, so you may have to even go to something like that. Now, if we change that one back to 100%, and just click in any other box like this one. How's that looking? Is that filling it up enough? Maybe we want to spread it out a bit more. Let's try 120% and click in another box. Okay, that's probably done too much, so let's try 110%. Okay, I think that's going to be all right. So click this double arrows up here. We can always come back anyway and change it some more. So now we'll just go on the move tool and grab that and move it. And yeah, oh, it's spilling right off the end. It's way too big. Okay, so let's go back to window and character. And let's try put that back to what we were thinking originally, 95%. And click in there. And now it's way too close. It's being difficult, 100%. Okay, let's go to 110%. 110%. Wow, the difference between 100 and 110% was huge. 105. Okay, so this was the fiddly stuff I was hoping to avoid by doing this all in advance. But let's try that. All right, that looks pretty good. And if we get on our move tool, make sure we clicked on the Tokyo layer. We should be able to push down our mouse and move that. To fine tune it, just use the arrow buttons. But okay, that's pretty good. All right, so we're happy with that. We finally got through that step. All right, so this VA value seems to vary between computers. I'm using a different computer now with a bigger screen, bigger laptop screen than the one I had previously. So it must be affected by that in some way. And we're nearly ready to do our clipping mask, but remember, what we have to do is get in our layers panel here, click on pick 3, and to highlight it, then you need to push down your mouse and hold and move that up. And see, we've got some double blue lines there, and then you let go, and then it's up the top, all right? If that didn't work, you may have to get on Tokyo and pull Tokyo down so that Tokyo's underneath. But either way you do it, by pushing down and holding the mouse and moving and then let go of the mouse button. Pic 3 needs to be on top, Tokyo needs to come next, and the rectangle underneath. All right, now you need to be clicked on the Pic 3 layer because you want Tokyo to come up from underneath and punch through this to make the stencil. So we go to layer and we go to create clipping mask to do that. All right, but we are clicked on the background Pic 3 image layer, which is at the top of the layer stacks, and then our Tokyo comes through. Now, if we need to move things around, you can be clicked on this image, the background image, and remember how we had it overflowing out the ends? That gives us quite a bit of room to move things around. So you might decide that you want it like that, okay? I think for ours, how did we do that? Now we get this weird thing with the gymnast's legs being up in the air on that letter, which just ruins that. Maybe, how much room? Oh, we've ran out of room. All right, everything. See, nothing ever works out perfect in this game. If we move over to the right, I think we'll run out of pictures. We sort of get the divers. How's that look? That's not exactly the same as I used before, and there is some repeating here in that we can see the surfer and we can see the surfer, but I'm actually kind of liking that. So I'm going to finish moving the background image. So I was just using the arrow key to move it forwards and backwards. You could use the arrow keys to move it up and down, but I think that is pretty good actually. I'm happy with that. So that one's finished and we can save that. And the final step is if you want to put some outline around it, add the stroke. All you need to do there, although K and Y have ended up close together there. Okay, well, we'll just have to leave that like that, I think. Now, to do the stroke, what you need to do is you need to be on the Tokyo layer where the letters are, and then you go to this FX tool down the bottom, and then you pick stroke. And it'll bring up the stroke panel here. Now again, this, because it's a different size laptop, things might be different, but we were finding that size 21 was pretty good. Now 21 on this laptop looks as though it's getting too big. I don't know, it depends. It looks different on different screens. Maybe on this one I'll only go for 18 perhaps. And the color we were using was a sort of a red color. A kind of a deeper red like that. Okay, so we pick our color and we say okay, then we say okay on that, and then we've got our writing, and then remember we didn't like this blue rectangle, so what we do is we've got back down on our rectangle layer, so click on the rectangle layer here in the layers panel, this bottom one, and we're nearly there, people. And window and properties, and click on that fill property, and we want to use kind of a light gray, or even a whitish color like that. Kind of looks all right, so we'll close it. All right, so that's pretty good. Now, another thing you can do is you can go to your images layer. If these aren't kind of looking bright enough or colorful enough, or they're looking too colorful, just go to image adjustments while you're on that layer. Go to hue saturation. You could, you don't really want to change the hue, but you could like desaturate them. You could even make a black and white version like that if you wanted to, which doesn't look bad because black and white and red and white go well together. You could desaturate them, or you could even pump the colors up a bit. I think we just pump them up a bit and put the bright lightness of them up a bit as well to make them a bit kind of more spotlighty. Anyway, play around with it till you get something you like, and then you can save that one, and I think we're done. That's it, that's done. And oh my goodness, it's been a long 40-minute lesson. Hopefully you're watching it at 1.75 speed and it hasn't taken that long. So let's get back and wrap it all up. So alternative stencil banners, we also made one where we used this background image and we just kept copying that across several times so that something's repeated, like this runner here repeats over here. So this was of the UK team, I think at the Rio Olympics actually, but we just repeated that across and we made this one, which is kind of nice because it's got these bright blue parts of the swimming pool, which looks good. So yeah, it's up to you. You can try make it with different background images, and that's probably enough. We've done that to death. Now, if you want to get really professional, like this example off the internet, which I think is a photo of a postcard actually, How old-fashioned are they? But here they've gotten really professional. They've set up their background before they clipped it out to make sure that all these images would fit into the letters perfectly. Okay, so that would take quite a bit of work to get those right. But you can see what they've done. They've sort of had a double image and two little ones, and a double width one and two little ones. And maybe they actually had 3 squares here and clipped each one separately on the letters. I'm not sure. But yeah, if you want to get real professional, it'll take quite a bit of fiddling around to get your images done. But we are done for this lesson. So thanks for watching. Give this video a big thumbs up if you found it helpful. And have fun with Photoshop. We'll be putting out more lessons, so make sure you subscribe to our channel. Subscribe, 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 and we'll see you in the next lesson.